This is my story of what is it called again? What did I say? How I lost my career to abuse, mental illness, and the pandemic. Okay, so first of all, I went to college for fashion and I graduated in 2017. I didn't get a job right after college, so I started working at a salon as a receptionist. And this is when I was dating my abusive ex-A. So I actually got the call that I'd be getting a job in California, working at a department store headquarters, being an assistant buyer, which is what I went to school for. So I move out there with abusive ex-A, and I really shouldn't have. Like, I really wish that I did not take them with me, especially since when I asked them to come with me, they said no at first, and then said yes because they had nowhere else to go. Like, it was terrible. But we went to California, and then before my first day of work, she destroyed all the gifts and like all the written things that I had given her and just like left it in the hallway for me when I woke up. And it was just really awful, and I just had to like go to work like that. But I still let her stay. So she was staying with me for like a few months after we got there. And we got into like a final argument, and like it was just awful. And like I was away from home when we were arguing over the phone, and then I came back, and like she started yelling at me, and like she got in front of me, and then she was about to hit me, but instead of hitting me, she hit the window. And she like just made me feel bad the entire time. It made me feel so bad that I didn't call the police. She's like, "You're gonna call the police on me? I'm gonna do this." It was just really awful. So after that, like she did not like I didn't kick her out all the way. Like she was still in my apartment, but and I kept working, and then I met XB. So I met XB. We were together for a while, and then I kicked XA out December of 2017. So at work was pretty difficult because we had a bankruptcy going on. So that really like stressed me out and like really just put me in a negative space. And also because everyone else was in such a negative place, it like had such an impact on me. Like being around all that energy was just really awful. So I had an outburst at work. I came in my pajamas and I yelled, and it was just really awful. Yeah, it was just really terrible. So I got 5150'd. Not the same day, but eventually I got to the hospital and they put me on a 72-hour hold, and it was just really confusing. Like I just didn't know what had happened. No one was really explaining anything. Like it was just awful. Like, and then I got out, and then I was just confused until I called a bunch of numbers, and I got with a psychiatrist, and she diagnosed me with bipolar disorder. My current diagnosis is schizoaffective bipolar disorder, but they just knew about the bipolar at this point. And things with my XB had not been going well. Like we had gotten into arguments, and eventually they yelled at me to take my medication. So like that's when we broke up for the first time. And yeah, I was still working. I think they were just like afraid to fire me. I think that they thought that I'd bring a lawsuit, or like I don't know what they thought, but it was just really awkward. But I was still working. And I finally found another job at a startup after 10 months of looking for another job. I was doing interviews, I was doing everything, like just for like 10 months just looking. And I finally found another job. But the problem is that I met XC, and this was like a very controlling person. This is a person that I actually talked to Ram about because they were Hare Krishna, but she was black, but she went over there for a couple years and did all that and then came back. But she was controlling. She loved to see me at the hospital. She wanted to be a savior. So like it was just awful. Like I was in the shower once, and she dragged me out of the shower to try and get me to go to the hospital. And I almost hit my head, and I was like, you could have hurt me. Like I could have hit my head. And she was just like, you didn't. And I was just like, it was just so awful. So yeah, we broke up after that, and I lost my job in the hospital, my new job, because I was manic at work. And yeah, I was just confused and like not knowing what was going on. But like I really wish I could have taken better opportunity. I don't know, I just wish things could have been different. But yeah, so I got out of the hospital and I was desperate to stay in California. I got a job for $20 an hour selling jerky, selling this specialized jerky in a store, and I was gonna spend $700 a month to share a room with someone. And I was telling my mom all this, and she was, I don't even know what she was. She was just worried about me because I had been in the hospital so many times because this had been so difficult. She was just so worried about me. So I told her that I needed a co-signer for the room, and she said, well, let's talk about it. And then my auntie called me, and she sounded so somber. Like, I had never heard her sound like that ever in my life. And she was just telling me, like, you need to come home. Because what she knew is that my mom was telling my aunt that my mom was going to make up an illness or an injury for me to come home. So my auntie was like, let's not do that. Let's just ask her to come home. So then I came home. And this was around the time, so this is the end of 2019. So this is around the time that I lost my eyesight in my left eye. So I think that all the stress of that, of all these situations, just like exasperated my illness and like caused me to lose my eyesight. But, you know, not sure, but just saying. So fast forward to February 2020, I find a new job, or this was probably in spring when I was interviewing, but I find a new job and at a fashion company. So I was really excited. I moved out there and stayed with some friends, and I worked for about 3 weeks, and I think that we all know what happened in March 2020. I got laid off on my birthday. My boss called me crying. She was literally crying. I wasn't even crying at that point. She was crying for me, and she was just so upset. Because this is actually a boss that I had worked at the department store headquarters with, so she knew me.
Yeah.
So she's the one who hired me. So to hear, it was just really devastating. So I got laid off on my birthday. So I had to come home again from California. And then I started working locally in Michigan at a makeup store until I was diagnosed with NMO in 2021. So that's kind of like my employment history and why things have been so difficult for me.